Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Since I recently moved a few months ago from Indiana to California, I decided to make a video about how I did it and what I did and the process that I went through and everything relating to it, because I know there's a lot of people that live like all over the country or even all over the world that want to move to Los Angeles, and it can be kind of complicated, I guess. For some people it's complicated, for others it's not complicated, it just depends. But I just figured I'd talk about how I did it so that you might get some ideas or get a little bit of like information about just things, I guess. Yeah. So I have everything written down, so if I'm looking down, that's why. Just because there's a lot of information. Okay. I moved with just for like some information, I moved with my fiance. He was my boyfriend when we first decided to move, but after moving he was my fiance. But it was just me and him who moved here from Northwest Indiana, like Chicago area, and we had been planning on moving for like exactly a year. Like, we'd always wanted to move here in the future, but for a while we were just like looking for jobs here online, and we didn't have any luck like at all. Nobody replied back to us, nobody called us for interviews, and we both have bachelor's degrees, so we thought it was like kind of annoying and a little bit strange, I guess. So we decided, I think it was like January, like a year from then, we were just going to move there and just like save as much as we could. And we weren't really sure how much money we needed, but we like spent that whole year just like planning and trying to figure out like exactly how to do it and how much money we needed and how to find an apartment and all of those things. I know a lot of people do it with like way less planning, but we're pretty old and we both lived with our parents, so we wanted to make sure that we wouldn't be moving back home, because my parents were really like unhappy about me moving away. They did not want us to move without jobs, just because they were afraid we were wasting our money, and they were basically just saying we were going to fail. So we were just like determined not to fail, I guess. But yeah, so a year later we saved up a bunch of money. I don't know, it's hard to tell how much money you need exactly, because it depends on if you know anyone here, if you already have like roommates, if you have a job lined up, if you can transfer. Like, I guess it also just depends on like how high of standards you have for where you live. And our standards were not really that high, we just wanted to be safe. So we ended up saving $12,000. I don't know if that seems like a lot or not a lot, but that's how much we had. And that was just like making not that much money, just saving for a year. If it seems like a lot, it wasn't really that hard. You just have to like be strict with yourself. And I don't know why like talking about money is like such a taboo, but it really annoys me, so I just like to be honest about how much money we actually had, just so that you can have some idea. Like, I read a lot of articles that said you only needed like $3,000, and I'm so glad that we didn't listen to those articles, because we would have run out of money just like from the moving process. So yeah, that's how much money we had. And the way that we actually moved is in January, like halfway through January, we decided to move in my car and just drive there. So we packed up like half of our stuff, the stuff that we would need first, and we drove all the way like Indiana to California with half of our stuff. And we made some stops along the way just to make it fun, because like we're going through really awesome places and we wanted to have fun with it. So we spent like, I think 5 days driving or something. We stopped at, I don't know, I made a video about the trip, so I'll link that below. But yeah, and we made a reservation at a campground for 3 nights, and then we stayed in an Airbnb. We had that booked for a week while we were like looking for apartments and stuff. We didn't want to look for apartments in advance because there's like so many scams online, and I just recommend not bothering to look in advance because you're probably just going to get scammed and you're going to end up like losing a bunch of money or giving someone like your personal information or something. So I just don't think you should do it. But yeah, we just camped for the first 3 nights at a KOA. As soon as we got to like Los Angeles area, we put our stuff in a storage unit just so that we didn't like have all of it with us, obviously, because someone would steal it, or yeah, obviously you have to get rid of all your stuff. So we just put it in a storage unit, and then we went, that's like the first thing we did when we got here. We already had a reservation for one. So then we went to the place we were staying, and we decided to stay at a KOA like campground for the first 3 nights because I have a tent and we brought it with us. So we were like, why not just camp in a tent, because it's way cheaper than staying in a hotel. And we were trying to save as much money as possible during the moving process just because we wanted to have all of that money for apartment, and we didn't know how long it would take for us to find jobs. So we camped for 3 nights, and the reason we stayed in a KOA is because they have internet, so like you can be sleeping in your tent and have internet access. So yeah, that was really nice. And after that, like during the day, we just spent like all that time looking for an apartment, and then after that we stayed in an Airbnb, and that was not the best experience. That was my first time staying in an Airbnb, and honestly I did not really like it, but it was better than a hotel because it was cheaper. We made a reservation for a week, and then we only stayed 2 nights before we ended up finding an apartment. And the way we found an apartment is by like looking online. Obviously there's like a bunch of apartment websites that you can look on, and the way we actually found one is just by driving around. Like we'd spend one day going to one area, and then we'd like read signs that were on buildings like with numbers that had like you know, just like rental units available, just like those kind of signs, and we'd call the number and ask to view the apartments that we were interested in and ask how much they cost and everything. And that way you can like see if a neighborhood looks safe, and you can see what it would be like living there rather than like driving all over not even having a clue what these places look like. And what I read is that like a lot of the smaller places that don't have like a huge budget, they don't even bother listing their place online because it's just like a waste of money, and apartments are so like competitive here that sometimes it's better just to go to a place, like look for signs that say that they're renting, and just call the number. And yeah, that's what we did, and we only actually looked at like 4 places before we signed a lease on one, and that's where we are now, and we really like living here. And that's how we found that place, is not online, just by like driving around. Okay, so after we found an apartment, then we obviously went back to the storage unit, got all of our stuff, moved in, and then we started looking for jobs. Eventually we both found them. My boyfriend found one within like, my fiance found one within like a week. And it took me a little longer, but now I do have a job, and these aren't like amazing jobs. They're not really like in our field of study so much, like not what we want to do for a living, but they're jobs that pay the bills, so like we're fine with that because it's a lot better than being where we were before. Okay, so then after that, like after he got a job, I didn't have a job yet, I don't think, but we decided we needed his car too, so that once I got a job we could both like have cars to drive to work. So we flew back home, got his car and the rest of our stuff, and drove back to California. Yeah, but we did get rid of a lot of our stuff. We didn't take absolutely everything. I cut down probably like half of my stuff I got rid of, and yeah, that's how we were able to take everything in just 2 small car loads. But we drove back in his car. We just drove like pretty much straight through because we didn't want to waste a lot of money the second time. And now we've just been like slowly furnishing our apartment. And just to let you know, we didn't need all $12,000 of the dollars that we saved. we did need most of it, but it's like good to have some savings for things. And it costs so much money to have a car here. Not health insurance, but car insurance is literally over twice as expensive as it was in like Indiana, where I'm from. So it's really expensive, and then having like out-of-state registration and getting your new plates and everything. And something else you have to pay for here, which is really annoying, is a smog check, which I didn't even know. It's called an emissions test in Indiana. I think it's the same thing here, but it's called a smog test, and you have to pay for it, whereas in Indiana you don't pay for it, the state just pays for it. And I didn't know about that, so that's really annoying. But it's always good to like have extra money saved for hidden expenses, because honestly, when we started doing all of this, we did not have any idea how much it would cost. We were kind of just assuming, I guess. Yeah, and that's a long process we went through, but I guess I'll go through some more tips that I have just from learning things. I already gave the one about looking for an apartment. What other things do I have? Oh yeah, okay, so there's like certain times of the year where apartments here are like more competitive and it's harder to find one. I think in the summer is one of those times, and we moved like on the off season, so there wasn't quite as much competition. So I recommend figuring out when most people move and moving a time when most people are not moving. Obviously save plenty of money so that you have money to like mess up or hidden expenses, or like if your car breaks down, like you need security deposit. Obviously there's just like so much cost that goes into it. If you're getting like a rental car or anything like that, not a rental car, but a moving van or something. We didn't do that just because it was so expensive, and we're not like a big family with a bunch of stuff, so we didn't do that. Also because we needed to bring our cars here. I'd also say if you work somewhere where you can transfer, that would be really convenient, like transfer jobs. We didn't have that luxury, but if you know, like, if you don't care where you work and you know you want to move somewhere like across the country in the near future, then you should just get a job somewhere where you can transfer, because why not? It's just like convenient and easy. Oh yeah, I would say, I think the reason why we found an apartment so quickly, we actually just got the first one we applied for. And of course you need to pay for like application fees and stuff for apartments, but I think it's because we both have high credit scores. So if your credit score is like not so great, they definitely look at that, so you should try to get it up before you move, or have like a cosigner. Also, if you know anyone in the area of where you're moving to, that's always like really convenient, because you have connections for jobs and places to live, and it can be cheaper if you just go visit and look for apartments to stay with someone. But we didn't have any of that because we actually don't know like a single person that lives here. I mean, I have like some acquaintances, but I don't actually talk to them anymore or like know them like at all. So yeah, that was like something that we didn't have, but I mean, everything worked out, and I'm really happy here. We've been here for like 4 months or something, so I would definitely say we are here to stay. And if you have any questions, you can ask them below, or yeah, I don't know what else to say. That's all I have. So thanks for watching, and I hope you got something from this video, or I hope you enjoyed watching it, and I'll see you in my next video.